Wanted to give you a little bit of photo 101. Reducing noise, grain, whatever you want to call it, but it actually does matter. So I want to cover what is noise, should you worry about noise, and how to reduce it. Do you really need to? Here we go. It's really important to know how you get noise, what it is, and where it comes from. Well, you have to go back to the film days and where it's called grain. When you started using, faster speed rolls of film like 3200, 1600, etc., and you really push it, you see these little dots. The pixels and everything like that. It wasn't pixels, but you see every little dot. That's what you see. That's grain. That's how it was, because there was no awesome sensors like there is today that can handle that low of light and everything like that, like there is now. But you got to really understand what is noise. Basically, you can get noise from a lot of things. You can get it from the size of your sensor, your camera sensitivity to light, your ISO. If you're using really, really higher ISOs like 6400, 25,000, etc., when you really, really push the limits, just like back in the film days. But any camera you have will produce noise at some point. You can have your camera phone that'll obviously not be maybe as great as some point and shoots, some of the mirrorlesses, but obviously some crop sensor DSLRs will be better than mirrorlesses. But then you go full frame and everything like that, etc. So it really doesn't matter what you have. There will be noise at some point, but should you really, really, really worry about that? I'll cover that in a second. There are some quick tips I can give you that you can actually reduce the noise in your camera, actually basically to where you kind of get none. But what's really, really important is getting out of your auto modes, especially if you're using auto ISO. Not a good idea, because your camera, just like if you're shooting in auto, it doesn't really matter what metering mode you're in. If you're in matrix or anything like that, or spot metering where it does one little specific spot. If you're in a dark situation, no matter what, your camera is going to choose a high ISO to get you something better, something more handholdable with shutter and aperture and everything like that. It's just not good. It'll probably put you in a situation to where you only need probably 1600, which would look probably fine, but it might give you something at 3200 or 6400 and really, really over-exaggerate what you need. So that's not a good thing. But one theory you always say, besides, just shooting manual, which what you should do is shoot manual. As you shoot manual, you kind of shoot to the right of the histogram. You kind of shoot bright. You overexpose a little bit if you need to in a really, really darker situation. So that way when you go to edit, you have some leeway. One huge thing you do is turn off the noise reduction in your camera. A lot of people go, well, why not, and everything like that, because it's really an auto form of noise reduction and it just doesn't look good. So I always keep my noise reduction off in the camera, plus it smooths it too much. Once again, I'll cover that in a second when I tackle how to reduce noise in post. But overall, the biggest thing you could do is own a flash. Owning a flash will ultimately, I just shot a wedding. We were in the darkest situation. There was no window light, no nothing. The ceilings were really, really high and were painted black, which is pitiful and awful. But obviously you can't say, everyone stop the wedding. Let's do what I need to do. No, that can't happen. That'd be awesome though. So what you need to do is you really pop a flash. It really, really helped, because if anything, I was pushing my D7000 to like 6400 ISO. While yet again, that isn't terrible. It was still really, really, really dark in that venue. So it's really something you got to keep in mind. Flash is actually king and can keep your ISO under 1000, which is fantastic even in that situation. So it comes to the question, should you actually worry about noise? Should you worry about that grain? No, actually, I'd rather have a really, really nice image with some noise in it than not get it at all, because I'm like, oh, it's too grainy, I don't want to take the shot. It doesn't matter. A client's not really going to come up to you and be like, that shot is so grainy at all. Just remember, it is actually all about the moment. It's actually better than not taking the shot at all, because I think it adds something to it, especially going back to the days of film days and everything like that, and I still shoot a little bit of film and everything like that. Grain looks pretty cool. Now, I'll be honest when I say this, I do use Photoshop a lot, but I can go between Lightroom and Photoshop no problem. This is Photoshop CS5, and I use Lightroom 5. The huge thing you got to remember is that, once again, noise is what it is. It doesn't matter. So I'm here to show you a mess-up shot that I pulled out from a recent benefit I shot to show you something out. It's a bad shot because I used the wrong f-stop accent when I was coming from a different situation. But it really, really shows what you can have. I was obviously using available light and everything like that coming in. I wasn't using a flash or anything like that. So in that case, as you see right here, I needed to use a higher ISO. So I was at 2000 ISO. It was pretty dark, and that's why I was using a lighter f-stop. I think I bumped it up to like an f4 just in case. So really what happened here was it is what it is. And obviously you can see maybe there might be a little bit of grain, and we're going to go in and just look. So as you see, there is a little bit of grain. It's not grain, it's noise, but it doesn't look horrible. It really does not do much for me. And once again, this was just a fun little shot. But as you see, it's here. It is what it is. It's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But people get really, really sticklers over it, and they'll go in, be like, oh my God, that's grain. I'm in 400 times. If you see down here, I'm in 400%. That is nuts. That's not even a 1-to-1. See, that's at 100%. And that's not even going to be what it's going to be printed out as. So as I said, I'm going to show you what you can do to reduce the noise in program. And I feel that Lightroom and Photoshop handle this the same way. So we're going to zoom in really, really close, and I'll show you what exactly you can do. As I said, this is noise. This is what it is. This is the grain. As I said, you go in the development tool in your Lightroom, and you can handle it the same way in your detail slider and everything like that. So what is this? This is where your noise reduction comes in, and there's certain things you can do here. Someone is going to ask me, I was using my Nikon D700, a full frame camera, and my 24-70 2.8 lens, as you can see right here. As you see, it really wasn't that bright in regards to histogram. Once again, I'll cover histograms in a future video, but this is what you have right here, your luminance. And basically, this is masking or hiding noise. In my opinion, that's how I like to call it, because that's what it does. It really, really softens it. So as you said, we're about 200%, which is really, really far. And you're not going to really see noise unless you blow this up to a billboard or anything like that. So here's what we have. And as you see, if I just drag the slider, you will see it's softening it. I mean, it looks like boom, 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 boom. So some people go up to about 30%, 40% and think that's fine. And if I pull back a little bit, you see, I guess it's not as prominent. And then as I'll go really extreme, and I'll show you. So that's smooth, which looks horrible to me. But as you see, you don't really see the noise, I guess. But it's just too smooth, and it looks unnatural on the skin. Ugh. But then if you go back, you see it come back. And in my opinion, I don't touch this at all. But that's what you can use. And you can go into certain different things. You can control the contrast of the luminance. You can make it, pop a little bit, the shadows and everything like that. There's the color detail you can go into. And you can take away if there's something really nuts. Like if you see what just happened there was a little bit of artifacting up here where it turned up purple, everything like that. And you can control that. Once again, you don't really need to touch that. As I said, I don't even worry about noise reduction. If I'm at a higher ISO, I'm at a higher ISO. So what? You could buy different software that there's like Noise Ninja or whatever there is. But in all honesty, if you already have this, it's just a waste of money. You know what you're going to... It is what it is. You captured the moment. It's a really cool picture of them. They're going to love this. One quick thing I wanted to add, though, is you can also, I guess, mask noise by going in black and white. So if you could drop the saturation down... So I'm going to drop the saturation. As you see, it doesn't pop as much. So I'll go back. So see, go back, and it really kind of kills it down a little bit. You mess with the exposure a little bit, and you go up. You pump the contrast a little bit. Boom. You know what? To me, that looks pretty cool, and it doesn't make the noise stand out as much. So that's what I have. That is noise. That is what it is, what you could do to prevent it in your camera without even touching anything at all, which is probably the best way you can do it. And it's just a simple quick tip of what you can do in your editing program. Once again, you don't have to go out and buy a lot of money. Clients really won't care or notice this. It's really not something you should worry about. Capture the moment. It's way more important than not pressing the shutter at all. And that's my opinion. What is your guys' thoughts about noise? Down below.